good afternoon, and welcome back to At Home in Bethel Park. My name is Judy Scheidler, and today our guest is going to be talking to us about furnaces, furnace maintenance, and furnace safety. And Tom, welcome to At Home in Bethel Park. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your background?
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Scheidler. As Judy said, I'm part owner in Alltech Inspection Services. Degreed engineer from Penn State. Worked as a project engineer for J&L Steel. Then as an assistant corporate facilities engineer for Mine Safety Appliances for 9 years. So a lot of experiences with boilers, furnaces, industrial equipment, which is very much related into families and homes and furnaces. We're going to start with this just as a basic, some of the things to look at when you're looking at a furnace. One is the switch, shut-off switch. Make sure that the switch for the furnace is turned on. I cannot tell you the number of times that the switch has been turned off for any number of reasons. Two, the filter. Some furnaces, you have a high-efficiency filter. If they do become plugged, they can reduce the efficiency and do damage to your furnace. You want to make sure your intake and your exhaust for your high-efficiency furnaces are not blocked on the outside. Or if you have an older furnace, you have a metal flue pipe. You want to make sure that it's not corroded, it's not rusted, there's no holes in it. You also want to make sure that your registers in the house are not blocked, which will restrict airflow. But those are the things you should be doing at the beginning of every season.
Can I ask you a question here? What's the best way for a homeowner, and we see this a lot, so this is so common, and it's a fail on many appraisers and many home inspections, and that's the exhaust flue. How difficult is it explain what the problems would be.
The exhaust flue, one of the common problems we see with exhaust flues out there, they're put in wrong. Just what I ask people, when hot gases rise, your flue pipe must always go up and angle into the chimney at an angle. Or in newer homes, you have vent stacks. This flue pipe must always be going up at an angle. It should never be level, should never go downhill. If this flue pipe is going downhill, that will cause the furnace to improperly draft. You run the risk of getting carbon monoxide back in this area. Also, if this is not properly venting, you'll get a lot of condensation, and this exhaust pipe will start to corrode. You'll get holes in it, and then you'll get exhaust gases back out into the basement, which once again is a way of getting carbon monoxide back in your home.
So we talk about carbon monoxide, but I know that you know this with all your experience in the mills. There's more than just carbon monoxide in that gas.
Your basic component is air, water vapor. You have a lot of carbon monoxide is the one that everyone is very much aware of, but you have CO, you have NOx, SOx, you have a lot of gases.
And none of them, just to be clear, are things you want to be breathing in.
None of them are what you want to be breathing in. However, those other gases, when you mix them with moisture, is what really corrodes the flue pipe. In fact, in newer furnaces, when you have your PVC pipe, it's those other gases is the reason they have to use PVC pipe. When you increase the efficiency, you reduce the discharge temperature of the flue, which means you're condensing a lot more moisture out. It mixes with those other gases and will actually rust out right away. That's why they have to use PVC pipe so it doesn't corrode. But no, none of those other gases here you want to really be breathing in.
Okay, so the high-efficiency furnace is a little bit different than. Well, let me start right here. Let me go right back over to here to the panel switch. This is actually not the breaker switch. There has to be some other connection for these furnaces for them, a line of sight shutoff. How far away should that be?
This switch here is normally the one that's on the furnace. This is what the service people use to shut the furnace off when they're working on it. This switch either A, has to be at the furnace or within your line of sight. There are times the panel box may be right here and the breaker is there. So they can physically see it while they're working on it, which means nobody can turn that breaker on while they're working on the furnace.
Right.
That's the safety for this here.
Okay, that's kind of where I was getting at, the line of sight shut off for these furnaces.
This shut-off switch has to be under the direct control of the person doing the furnace.
Okay.
Just show you some of the parts of the furnace. This is your return air coming in through your filter, the blower up through past the burners into the heat exchanger, and then back on. You actually have two systems. One is the air, which goes inside the heat exchanger. Then you have your exhaust gases, which get burned through the exterior of the heat exchanger and then go out through your flue. The two never meet. The problem occurs when you get an older furnaces, you have corrosion in the heat exchanger, you get holes, and then you start getting the combustion gases in with the house gases. That's where you get carbon monoxide through the furnace.
Now, just to be really clear, the air comes in and it passes over the chamber.
It passes over the outside of the heat exchanger.
Right. Okay.
And the hot gases from combustion are contained within the heat exchanger. The two never mix. Now, one of the things you'll see here, there's a little switch. Now, sometimes when the furnace doesn't start, okay, say if you get up in the middle of the night, it's cold, and it doesn't work. Okay?
It's happened in my house.
A couple things to do, like I say, one, check to make sure the switch is on at the furnace and at the breaker box. Two, what I tell people is take the cover off, turn the switch off, and then turn it back on. Now, before you do that, you have to make sure that the thermostat is turned up.
Oh, we'll get to that
you gotta make sure
thermostat
the
in a couple
thermostat's
minutes.
turned up. But you'll hear the blower motor kick in as it's purging the inside, and then after that you hear the draft motor kick in, which is purging the chamber out. That's required. That has to purge all the old gases out. Then you'll see the igniter. You'll have two types of igniter. One is an electronic igniter, which is a sparker. That's some of the older furnaces. The newer furnaces have what's called a hot surface igniter, which it's like a glow plug. It glows a real bright orange.
Okay.
You can sit there and you can watch that glow. Once that starts to glow, then your gas valve will open up and fire your furnace. If you're sitting there and you're watching it and that does not glow, that's your problem. 9 out of 10 times, if you have a furnace problem, it's what they used to call a pilot problem. Now that you don't have a pilot, it's an igniter problem. Your igniters are not working. And that's very common out here because if you have a cold day and your furnace turns on 25 times, that igniter is lighting up 25 times.
Okay.
So that's a very common wear part. And it's also very easy to change out. But that's the one thing, is check for that. The other thing is you have a panel. You have two doors. One's on the top and one's on the blower compartment door. You want to make sure that that door on the blower compartment is closed because there is a switch here. And the reason for that switch is if that door opens up, that switch will open and shut down the furnace.
It's a contact switch?
It's a little contact switch. It's to prevent any carbon monoxide from combustion from getting down into the air system. And this is just a blow up of what you will see when you're in a basic furnace. Your burners, okay? This is your gas valve, manifold. This is your draft blower that we were talking about as it purges the gas. And this is a pressure switch. But
what's a manifold? I mean, we've all heard of it in cars.
Manifold,
but
here's your incoming gas line.
Mm-hmm.
This is your gas valve, which opens and closes. This manifold, all it is, it's a pipe that distributes the gas to the individual burners. Now, the number of burners that a furnace has depends on what the size capacity they're looking for.
The BTU?
Correct.
Okay.
The higher the BTU furnace, the more burners you need.
And BTU is
British Thermal Unit.
Okay.
Okay.
The pressure switch, is that what we were just talking about here or is that something else?
No, that's something else. What the pressure switch is in order to make sure, when you have your draft blower, in order to make sure that you do have air going through it and through your combustion jet that is purging, this actually is a safety. It closes and it's a safety and it allows the gas valve to operate. So it's one of the safeties that they build in. You have a safety pressure switch here, just like you have a blower compartment door switch down below.
So this is the upper part of the furnace.
This is the upper part. Your blower compartment is down below.
Okay.
This is your blower motor. Mm-hmm. This is what moves the house air. Then this is an older furnace. It doesn't have, but this is what would be up above the draft motor. This is
And that provides the warmed air to the house?
no. This is for the flue. This is for the exhaust flue.
Okay.
This is what makes sure that your exhaust flue gases exit the flue stack. So
Okay.
you actually have two. This is just a cutaway. It doesn't show the draft motor, which would be up in here.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let me ask you another question here. A lot of times, and we've heard it at our house, that motor starts to make a funny noise. Does that mean necessarily that the motor is gone? Because we've had friends who tell us, oh, my motor's making a noise, and the serviceman said we have to replace it. Is that always the case, or is there
Well,
other?
Most of the time, when you hear a noise, you have your draft motor here. Okay, this is what there's a fan in there which is actually pulls the hot gases out of the furnace and through the stack. This little piece here is a fan. It's on the back of the motor. It actually cools the motor because it gets hot. What happens is this is all plastic, and after a year or two, it gets soft and it breaks off. I've seen people, they've already replaced just this. That's real expensive. That's like $20.
So you may think, and you may call somebody out to do a repair on this furnace, and they may say it's X, Y, or Z when it could be as easy
As easy
as
as that. That's the nice thing when you're looking at your furnace. This is a typical cutaway of a furnace. They're all a little different. They all have different things, but you have your, like I said, you have your manifold, your burners, your gas valve, pressure switch, draft motor. All of your newer ones have the draft motor, and this is one part I've seen on several of them where they have broken off. They need to be replaced.
So a common easy, that's very easy. That's just like, what, 2 or 3 screws that come off and
Correct.
back on?
And even replacing the whole draft motor is not very hard.
So if we have Joe homeowner or Jane homeowner that have a medium amount of experience.
If you have somebody who likes to work on, who have done home repairs and have very, reasonably, secure with it, they could change that out.
Okay.
You just have to make sure you get the right part. Make sure you know the model number and the serial number of your furnace.
And I'm looking at this motor and I'm seeing a serial number on the motor. Before you even go to that serial number on the motor, you actually have to go to the serial number on the furnace.
You need the furnace model number and serial number. With that, they can pull that motor number off.
Okay.
That's not a problem. One of the other things I wanted to show you, in older furnaces, this is very common. This here,
Oh, that's bad.
this is what happens when the furnace is reaching its end. You can see you have a lot of rust, you have a lot of burn marks, scorching, not only from the burners, but coming up from the burners onto the outside.
Why is there a wire nut there? I mean, is that okay?
That was something, an item was replaced and they just wire nutted it together. That's not uncommon.
Okay.
What the safety hazard is, you normally don't expect to see that much heat being generated. All this discoloration you see here is all being from the heat of the furnace, which means it's not drafting properly. Which, if you're getting heat marks out here and rust, that means either A, the furnace is not drafting properly, so you have a problem with the draft motor, or, as we said, your exhaust flue is not vented properly.
This can be caused by backdraft?
Backdraft. The other, if it's not vented properly, or it could be caused by a cracked heat exchanger.
Oh.
See, what's happening is every time this fires up, you got the flame coming out and it's shooting up here, and then it's going through. So this here could be a very, very serious situation.
You pull your panel off the furnace and you see anything remotely resembling this.
Call an HVAC
Call
guy.
an HVAC guy, yeah.
Now, that's a very serious problem there.
Now, this actually looks like a lot of burning going on down here. Is that from improper combustion too, or is that just...
Some of it may be from improper combustion. It looks like a lot of it is just from improper drafting.
Oh,
and this
really?
is not something that just happens overnight either.
No.
This takes a while to do that. But yeah,
5 years? 7? Longer?
Yeah, it all
Depends on the furnace. When you look at this, and whenever anybody who is actually a homeowner looks at their furnace, You cannot see a cracked heat exchanger unless you have some of the little fancy mirrors like
Correct.
that you have, or any of the gas meters that you have. So they're best. Every homeowner, first of all, every homeowner should have a carbon monoxide meter installed. We went over that last year with our fire chief, but we'll go over it again. $20, buy a CO detector. You cannot smell CO, you cannot see CO, you cannot taste it, and it will kill you.
One of the things you can do when you fire this furnace up, I call it flame roll on. What it is, when this, you sit there, you take the cover off, you watch it go through its cycle, and then the burners will light. When those burners light, all those flames should be going straight into that heat exchanger. There are times where the flame will come out and then back in. I call that flame rollout because the flame is actually rolling out of the furnace and then back in. That's a very serious situation. There have been furnaces where I've seen the wiring out here has been actually melted. So if you sit there and you watch your furnace fire up and the flame rolls out, shut it down, call a heating person to come in, HVAC company. That's a very serious problem. That's improper drafting or a failed heat exchanger.
Now, a lot of times, and this may be something homeowners could notice or not, the flame will burn a different color if it's not burning correctly.
If it's not burning correctly, you will get different colors, and that's why
bluer is better.
Correct.
Okay.
That's why we always recommend you have a heating person come in every year in the fall. They can clean it, service it, and they can adjust your burners here, which will help your burners fire more efficiently, which will reduce your gas bill. Also, when they come in every fall and they clean it, dirt is a major contributor to bad efficiencies on a furnace. So by just the basic cleaning, adjusting the burners will increase your efficiency, cut down your gas bill, and give you a nice warm home. But if you ever open up your furnace and you see this, it's time to call a heating company. And this is a very
So this is one of those things where we talk about homeowners not knowing when they're going to have a big bill and when they're not. They're going to have a big bill on this one. One of the things, too, we kind of didn't get to it in the beginning, was a lot of the homes in Bethel Park, and we've seen them, still have the converted coal furnaces and the gravity-fired furnaces. Do we have pictures of them today?
No.
Can you explain why those gravity furnaces last forever?
Think of this as your gravity furnaces normally are like a 3x3 metal box. They're huge, and they have an octopus-like arrangement of ductwork coming out of the top. They're like normally like 50, 60 years old. They were installed in the 40s and 50s, and at times they had a coal burner. They used to burn coal in them, which heated the homes, which is the way of doing it at that time. What they would do is take the coal out, and they would stick a big gas burner in there. If you've ever seen one, it looks like a jet engine in there. The gas bill is horrendous.
Zero efficiency.
It's nothing to really speak of. But it does keep your house warm. That's the good thing. But your heat exchanger in here, which is a part that everyone's always talking about. Back in the 40s and 50s, they were made out of cast iron. They were extremely heavy. They basically would last forever. That's that bad part. They would last forever. The efficiency is so low, 40, 50%. It varies. It's very low. Especially when your newer furnaces are 80 and 90%. What you would spend on a new furnace would more than offset the cost. But that's why a lot of people do keep them, because the cast iron heat exchanger never fails. It just stays there.
You call it a gravity furnace for a reason.
It's called a gravity furnace because hot air rises. There is no blower on it. So
it is what it is. Gravity. So, if you have it and can't afford this year to get a new one,
it works.
You get that CO detector in there, try and replace it, because you're going to be paying a fortune in bills. But
gas bills will be very expensive on this one.
Okay. Thermostats, not just for me. I wish this was my thermostat. This was my old thermostat when I had my gravity furnace. I had no problems with that thermostat. My new thermostat looks something like this. The only thing I know to do on my thermostat is put the heat back up after he turns it down every night.
Yeah, that's about right. But thermostats, what I always tell people in the fall when you when you check your smoke detectors, you put new batteries in, change the battery in your thermostat.
Is it like a AA, AAA, lithium?
It varies. They either take out 2 AA's or 3 AA's. It varies on the model and the manufacturer. People laugh, but I've seen people get up in the middle of the night, have no heat, and they have no thermostat because the batteries died. If your thermostat dies because of bad batteries, your furnace will not turn on.
Yeah.
And if it goes out in the middle of the night, guaranteed you will not have any batteries in the house.
That's true.
That's
called Murphy's Law, Tom, I think.
Yeah, there was one house where the batteries died, and the furnaces went full tilt. 2 furnaces. I had
they wouldn't shut off either.
They would not shut off. It was like over 100 degrees in the house. They didn't know what to do. I went over and just turned the switches and shut them off and said, I told you need batteries in the thermostats.
This one we've recently run into in another property that we have. The programmable thermostats, and they're quite complicated. That one has 4 different programmable settings. So you can set it for weekends when you're home, days when you're at work, in the evenings when you're home. They're all time controlled, and it's really, really cool, except when you went to the house, somehow I didn't quite get that right, and we were running 80 degrees, and there's nobody living in that house. So the programmable thermostats usually have a direction book that comes with them, do they not?
I have met people out there who love programmable thermostats. They love computers and anything that they can program. And I tell you what, they're really good at it. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of people who do not like them. They like the simple ones. You turn on, turn off, you're done.
It does a job. If you have this, you don't need to replace it. I'm just saying that. That's my opinion.
The nice thing about this one, there's no batteries.
That's true. What is that one though? That one you have explained that to me before. It's it has a.
They all have a bimetallic strip in it, thermocouple in it. That is what is actually senses the temperature in the house.
Okay.
That's why when you see a thermostat, the thermostats have to be level. Okay, because you have a mercury switch, you have a bimetallic metal, and so those stats have to be level. If they are tilted, they will not work correctly, meaning that if you set it for 70, then it actually could be keeping it 72, 73. So you're using more gas than you really want to.
Oh, I see.
Also, you want to take the cover off, and you want to make sure the contacts are clean down below. If they're dirty, that can cause them not to operate. So just normal maintenance on that too.
So everything with the furnace is going to be about maintenance, maintenance, maintenance. If you keep it clean, you keep it dry, you keep it exhausting properly, keep it serviced, you're going to have
dirt is a
problems.
Key thing. Yeah, dirt on the thermostats, dirt in the furnace, just very, very key.
Now, I don't want to not get to these 2 things because you made a point of saying, well, for the homeowner that has a little bit more savvy when it comes to some mechanical things, you may want to explain this to them.
What these are, as I mentioned earlier, one of the main problems in a furnace is the hot surface igniter. That's that glow plug you see that glows up all the time. They will fail, but they are relatively easy to replace.
Is that like a plug-in almost?
This here, the one end is a plug. You just disconnect the old one. This part here, which is the igniter, is held in place by one little screw.
Wow.
That's it. You'll have more trouble getting the screw in and out because it's so small. Take the screw out, take this off, put the new one in, use the screw, put it right back in and plug it in, you're back in business.
Now the nice thing about this actually doesn't have anything to do with the electricity. It has nothing to do with the heat exchanger. You're not going to be interfering with the efficiency of the furnace. This is a simple home repair that'll save you several $100s if you learn how to do it yourself.
In fact, I've changed ours twice, and I have one on the furnace just in case.
Yeah.
That's there. Like I said, the one we have only costs $20, and it's very easy to replace.
Now this is a little more complicated.
This here is the main board down in the computer. This is down in the blower compartment. You won't see it until you take the bottom cover off. This sits down there behind the blower. This is the heart of the whole thing. This is
the high efficiency.
If you have a problem with the furnace, this is what the HVAC people are looking at. This is the computer. This is where all the codes are. This tells them what's wrong. One thing I wanted to tell people, as I mentioned earlier, when you take the bottom cover off, the furnace shuts down. That is a safety that's built right into the furnace. Okay. Many times I would take the cover off and the blower would not shut down because there was a piece of black electrical tape around that switch which prevented it from opening to keep that furnace running. Didn't know why that was doing that. So I would always write that up because that was a safety. You open up the door, the furnace should shut down. So I spoke to a furnace company and they said they're the people who put that tape on there. As I mentioned earlier, this here is where all the codes are for your computer and for your furnace. So when it malfunctions, it stores it here. As I mentioned earlier, when you take the blower compartment door off, the switch opens up, kills the power to the furnace, it erases the computer and all the codes.
Oh, gosh.
So the HVAC
So
companies were
no
taping the switches shut, so when they would get there, they'd take the cover off, the codes will all be in there. Makes their job a lot easier, and it makes, actually...
Would you call that over-engineering? Yeah, don't answer that.
Yeah, but but that's why you have this here. This actually controls your furnace and your code. You have a blinking light. The blinking light will tell you exactly what's wrong with it.
Okay. Now, very quickly, would there be anything else you want to tell our neighbors in Bethel Park about their furnace to help them stay safe this winter?
This is the time of year that when you go through, one, make sure you change your filters. Change your filters every month. Dirty filters will help reduce the airflow through the furnace and reduce the efficiency. Two, make sure you have new batteries in the thermostats to make sure you get good control and they're not going to die on you in the middle of the night. Three, clean the furnace. Dirt, a lot of times people have a vacuum with a handheld attachment. You actually sweep out the blower compartment, sweep out the burner area.
Like with one of those little dirt devils.
Those dirt devil, those wands, the attachment. Keep it clean. Just good maintenance of a furnace. Dirt does a lot of damage.
And then, of course, like you said, taking one of those little torpedo levels and just setting it on top of the vent to make sure that there's...
Make sure that your exhaust flue is not level. It's not as critical in your high-efficiency furnaces with the draft motor, but you do have a lot of older furnaces out there. They count on draft, natural draft. And it's those furnaces that are having a problem when they're improperly vented.
Now, just real quick, too, because we're running out of time, but a high-efficiency furnace is 93% or better, correct? Or is it
92. Some people, it all depends, 90, 92, 95.
It's still okay for high-efficiency furnaces to be vented into the chimney, correct?
I have seen where furnace companies have run the PVC pipes right up through the chimney and out the top.
But they do have to be piped. They cannot flow into the flue like the old day.
No, they have to be piped up through.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason being is because your old furnaces require a certain area for volume. Your newer furnaces being so efficient, the volumes really decrease. So if you were to just dump it into the chimney,
it's all coming back.
It would just sit there and backdraft into your home. That's why that has to be taken all the way to the top and out.
Tom, thank you very much for...
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And again, Tom's with Alltech Inspection Services. And thank you for being with us. My name is Judy Scheidler, and thank you for coming to At Home in Bethel Park, and we will see you next time.